Chicago had a German neighborhood where most of the German Americans lived. And in fact, I was going west, man. Like
The
you cut
Chicago Cubs
straight
kick off the
around
second
town,
half of the season facing the Boston Red Sox at the friendly confines. Will this be the final march before the trade deadline to put themselves over the top in the NL Central? While the White Sox get ready and set and go in the series on the road at Pittsburgh. The MLB All-Star Game turned out to be a night of historic proportions. Did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch? We're only one day away from rookies reporting to Bears training camp, 3 days away from the veterans. We'll give you all the scoop coming up. And we'll have our sports potpourri segment, a lot of sports media news, and all that jazz and more as Second City Sports Friday Funk Edition starts right now.
It brought about over the years.
Welcome to this Friday Funk Edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find McGee McGee on the Twitter X again, IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app.
City is so segregated.
And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the upper screen for you. Or you decide to troll and/or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE, Live Entertainment game. That's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time exactly. But much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay right now. Also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto, whether we talk about sports, music, or entertainment. We will provide.
We'll provide you with some of the best channels I can see in sports. Of course, we got a lot of NFL stuff as training camp approaches, but some guys got a bit of a payday, especially some second round picks. We'll talk about that as well. First, also has another list for position players coming up this season. We got sports media news as some big changes abound over FS1's midday shows. Also, of course, we've got Open Championship out there over at over in Northern Ireland, as one player is starting to make a move and chasing away from the field at this point. We'll talk about that. Also, some NBA stuff as a superstar returns home, and of course, we'll get to all the MLB stuff. I know, sorry for all the technical difficulties from earlier. We had some a little bit of technical issues, but we got them fixed. So now you're gonna be have with us all throughout the rest of the hour. So let's talk some baseball first. Of course, the MLB All-Star festivities. Did you guys watch it? Well, Cal Raleigh wins the home run derby. There was also this viral video from when he was about like 5 or 6. Predicted he'll be the home run derby champion, and I'm sure it's been seen there for like the last like 3 or 4 days. So I'm sure you guys saw that. So that was a nice showing there as well. And also too with the All-Star game, it got into Well, let's talk about the home run derby first. Did you watch it or did you really? Well, you just want highlights of it. What you think?
I watched some of the highlights of it. So we talked about before. I like the new rules. It's been in effect for about a decade now. I know there was some couple of wrinkles they added here and there before this year's contest. I liked it personally. I told you Brent Rooker of the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we called them on this show. I thought that he was going to win. He had his chances. He had 17 home runs, but there was some guys, including Raleigh, that was just had a few more home runs than he did. But Kyle Riley actually put on the show. He was the best one out of all of them. Chas Chisholm Jr., I was disappointed in a little bit, and Matt Olson too. As we told you, the pressure was going to be on him because the All-Star game was in the hometown where he plays baseball. But Cal Riley was the best home run hitter there. You could tell that some of the other hitters got fatigued as the contest went on. I'm talking about Riley stood out above the rest, and he walked out away with the victory.
Yeah, nice, put a nice little show there. That was a nice little moment too between him, his father as a kid brother. His father was pitching to him. His brother was only 15, by the way. Came in. He saw he defeated Junior Caminero from the Royals, edged him out to win. So that was actually a pretty nice moment for him as well. Now, as far as the game itself, well, it got a little well, I don't want to say weird, but it got a little interesting as we got to it. Now, the cool thing about it is that they went back to their team uniforms, which I think that's a smart thing to do.
Yes.
The NBA should do the same thing. Just saying. But but yeah, it was great to see all the guys wearing their team uniforms. It was actually tied. It was actually it was kind of back and forth, and at the end it was up 6-0. Then AL came back and tied it, and then they actually, instead of going to extras, they decided to do a swing off instead. And of course, how ironic that Philadelphia's Kyle Schwarber went 3 for 3. Of course, he win All Stars won it, and he ended up winning MVP honors. So that was interesting. But the weird thing about it is that a lot of the top guys left by the time they got into. Yeah, apparently Judge had left. I think I saw Ohtani had left, and a couple other top guys left as well. So it was kind of interesting how that on that front. But what do you think about the game itself, and what are your thoughts on what happened after?
We all want to give Cal Schwarber props, and rightfully so. But let's give Stephen Kwan props from the Cleveland Guardians for the American League that ended up tying the game and sending this to this historic night. And I found it interesting that Joe Davis of Fox Sports kind of teased at it, like we may see something different if we go to extra innings. Stay tuned. So, well, we did. And I don't know about you, LaKeena, but I like this idea. Remember, the All-Star Game is back to its exhibition form for the last few years. One of the few things that Commissioner Rob Manfred got right, having to clean up that mess with Bud Light Selig, the previous commissioner. I like this idea, LaKeena. Why did baseball go to this long time ago? The home run derby doesn't have to take all night. Whoever has the most swings after a certain amount of time ended up winning the game. This is a great idea. We talked about other All-Star games from other leagues. LaKeena, the NBA, unfortunately, has become a joke the last few years. Hockey is an ugly exhibition. Football has really scrapped it. Now is a bunch of fun kids games mixed up in with some concerts as well, which actually that format has worked for the NFL over the last 2 or 3 years. We told you guys, for those of you that followed this program for the last several years, we told you guys that the NFL needs to go to that type of NBA All-Star Saturday format, and look what's happened. It's really taken off. But with this home run derby, instead of going to extra innings, quote unquote, take it on night like some All-Star games back in the day when we were growing up, LaKeena, I like this home run derby to decide it. Pete Alonso was not used for the New York Mets. Everybody thought he was going to come on next. Who needed Judge? Who needed Shohei Ohtani? The other big boppers hung around, and they put on the show. That's what you need for All-Star game, to test things out, to see if they work. This home run derby, instead of playing extra innings, it worked. I hope they keep it.
Yo, this is Second State Sports on SportsTalk. LaKeena, McGee, St. Brown with you as we recap the All-Star Weekend, the festivities. I think it was okay. Like I said, I didn't really watch the All-Star game, because I kind of kept it like I was turning back and forth with some other stuff. But yeah, I think it was fine. I guess if it meant. If it meant like having the game be over still at a reasonable hour, I guess that's I guess that's not a bad thing to have. But also too, I think it just sort of seemed like like I listen to some of the the sports radio stations here, both of them here in Chicago. There were a lot of hot takey kind of stuff, but it wasn't it was okay. I guess it was kind of like, oh, all right. I mean, they gave this guy the judge up a bit to this is, it's not gonna be a home field. Thank God they got rid of that. But yeah, the swing off thing is okay for me. But yeah, I think the All Star. I've heard some guys say that maybe the All Star there shouldn't be no All Star games, and like it should be like just just have those players get like days off during that time. But I think the thing is that this been this way for a long time now. It's not like they decided to do this in the last 30 years. I mean, some of these games have been around for like 100 some years almost, and in baseball's case, over 100 years. So I think it's just silly to say that. And plus, it's for the fans, it's for television, especially in the last like 30 years or so. And these networks paid a lot of money to broadcast these all-star festivities, if you will. So they're not going away anytime soon. Now you can make them interesting. Okay, this is an interesting way for baseball to kind of end that. I know the NBA is still trying to figure it out. I know the Pro Bowl for football. Say if you want, people actually still watch it. Same thing with the NHL. I know they've kind of like went away from all that to do it by country, but you're kind of taking away from a lot of the guys that participate, like the Russian players and stuff. Poor Draisaitl didn't have nobody to play with, so you'll see a lot of German hockey players, unfortunately. So, that whole thing. But yeah, I think we've been talking about for the last few years of how these sports leagues can kind of zhuzh up their all-star games and such, and it's kind of interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I think this is a nice way to do it. The swing off was definitely interesting, take, but it was, it is what it was.
I'm glad you brought up the point about television, because even when they had that scam of this time it counts BS, Fox, just like now, they're paying all that money to broadcast the All-Star game. You want to make your television partners happy, especially now that we're entering the era of streaming and keeping people's attention spans longer, holding on longer than 2.3 seconds. These sports leagues are in the entertainment business as well, whether we like it or not. So it's more than just watching a game. Can you bring the casual fan into with a little bit of entertainment? Can you tweak some things here and there to get the people interested, to keep their attention spans longer than 2.3 seconds? With that home run derby instead of playing extra innings, I like it. Like you said, we talked about the NBA 1,000 times, where the All-Star game has been trash for the last 3 to 5 years. Some people say even longer, but definitely over the last 5 years, it's been trash. The NHL, they haven't scrapped the All-Star game, but they have it in divisional formats, the Central Division versus the Pacific Division and all that, and the winners play the third period, and it hasn't worked. And like you said, football scrapped it, but the NFL's the NFL, so people are going to watch. But here's the thing about the baseball All-Star game. It's becoming an entertainment aspect as well, with the red carpet show before the day before the game. You see it again right leading up to the game. They took a page out of the NFL's book. You see that every year at the NFL draft, with the potential draftees coming in like a Hollywood-style type premiere. Baseball has done the same thing, and it's worked for them. It gives the sport more press. They're really the only game in town. Of course, the All-Star Games is scheduled 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks before NFL training camp. So baseball has more time to put more into stuff to make their sport shine and stand out from the rest. And I do give them credit for that. But the reason why these television networks, they want more bang for their buck, because it's not just because they broadcast these games. They're into the entertainment aspect as well. So you could tweak some things to grab people's attention and hold it. That's what they will do.
Now, as far down there in Atlanta, you had a lot of, kind of like they had the red carpets, like you said, and stuff like that. They brought in a lot of non-sports folks to help cover it. So I guess it's sort of one of those things where it's sort of like, you wonder, will it kind of, and unfortunately the ratings, I think it was like the second lowest rated All-Star game in the last decade. So unfortunately, it didn't really do much ratings wise. So it's sort of interesting that people to get more eyeballs to tune in, to make sense for folks to tune in. So it'll be interesting to see if it's going to be in Philadelphia, talking about the baseball All-Star game next year. So it'll be interesting to see what Philly will have planned for it. But it's going to get kind of like you're going to interesting territory here with that. But Yeah, but I think that as far as the baseball part of it, we'll get into preview some of the stuff that'll happen in the second half. But I think this sort of is kind of get people sort of still tune in for it, going into the second half of the season.
You're listening to Second City Sports on SportsTalk. Chicago City, LaKeena here with you. Before we go to our preview for Cubs Sox, both their series starting tonight. Shouts out to the Braves organization along with Major League Baseball. That was a great A++ tribute to Henry Aaron, because remember they had the All-Star game there, I believe, a couple of years ago coming out of COVID, and he passed away. So they was scrambling and try to do a tribute. But this tribute they had on Tuesday with the late great Henry Aaron, who died in 2020. That was awesome. I don't know about you, but I thought they did a better job with this go around.
Yeah, I think they knew that and to be fair though, like you said, it was in the middle of COVID, so you really couldn't do too much. But now in this case, they were able to kind of go all out, and plus it was in Atlanta where he spent a lot of his career, so it kind of helps that they would do that. His wife Billy was there, so it was actually really, and his kids were there too, so it was really nice to see, and very moving tribute and such. So yeah, it was a really a very cool part about the All-Star. All-Star game part of those festivities and such, and also they show where he broke up Babe Ruth's home run record. That was a nice moment that they showed there. So yeah, it was sort of it was definitely really one of the brighter moments from that whole All-Star week.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. Now we're moving on back to work for Major League Baseball. The second half of the season starts today. The first game up is LaKeena's Chicago Cubs hosted the Boston Red Sox for an important 3-game series for both teams. The Boston Red Sox come in with a 10-game winning streak. Their slugging percentage during this 10-game winning streak is at .528 clip. Batting .299 as a team, belting out 15 home runs. The Cubs lead the Milwaukee Brewers on the other side, 1 game over the Brew Crew for the lead in the NL Central. Your pitching matchup for today's contest, which starts a little bit over a half hour from Wrigley Field, if you're listening to this live. Colin Ray versus former White Sox player, maybe soon to be Cub Lucas Giolito. We'll see, but that's your pitching matchup for today's game. LaKeena, what is your outlook for this series for the Chicago Cubs? We're going to mention their schedule here, I'm sure. You have Boston for 3. You got Kansas City starting on Monday to close out the 6-game homestand. You have an off day next Thursday before staying here in Chicago next weekend, but you're traveling to the South Side to play the White Sox in Sox Park. I want to get your thoughts about this series coming up against Boston this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, that Boston series, because oddly enough, and this is according to, I saw a little thing where the rest of the schedule, it says the remaining schedule. Boston actually has the hardest schedule according to TJ Stats, and the Cubs actually have the quote unquote easiest, and I can take that for what it's worth. So. Yeah, so you can take that for what it's worth. I mean, this is going to be probably one of the harder series for the Cubs. But yeah, the Lucas Giolito, he's been playing very well, pitching very well for the Red Sox lately. I think he has his ERA is 1-something, 1.3 or something like that in his last 3 starts. So, maybe that, and of course the Red Sox as a team has been on a roll as well. So that they probably were not happy with the All-Star break coming up because they had won 10 in a row previously. But yeah, I think if you're the Cubs, you should be able to make at least, if they can win at least 2, it's just to win 2 out of 3 in this series. I think that should be that's fine. I mean, Colin Ray, I mean, he's been he's been great this year, but this is actually the longest. It's gonna be interesting to see how they look in the second half, because a lot of these guys have played well for them. I mean, Ray, this is the longest he's pitched. So you hope that the rest might help them a little bit. So that's really. We'll see how he does, but yeah, it's going to be interesting this series. But I think I know he's probably still pissed he didn't get make the All-Star team, so he's probably going to want to make a big impression this weekend. I know if Michael Busch, he can kind of get it back going there. I mean, he was getting it going those last couple of games before the break. So I think for me, I think the Cubs, they can win 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox. I know they've been on a heater lately. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do here. It'll be a great start to perhaps maybe try at least pull a little bit this between yourself and the Brewers in that division. But this will be a great, if they can get at least 2, if they can win 2 out of 3, a sweep was probably too much to ask, but if they can win 2 out of 3, I think they could probably get a good start going, in the second half.
The rest of your pitching matchup looks like this tomorrow night on Fox at 6:15 p.m. We have Brian Bella for Boston versus Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. Sunday's game, as of right now, undecided for Chicago. Maybe that's Chris Flexen. Maybe it's Drew Pomeranz, a combination of those two. We don't know, but as of right now, it's officially undecided. Garrett Crochet will get the start for Boston on Sunday. That's your pitching matchup for this series. LaKeena, I'm with you with Seiya Suzuki. Both of him and Michael Busch, both of those guys we should expect them to tear the covers off the ball, not just this weekend, but for the second half of the season, because both those guys should have been on the NL All-Star team. Seiya Suzuki has had a great first half. He's played the majority of the games. I know he missed a game or two here, but he's been healthy for the most part. It's been his Achilles heel, no pun intended, ever since he's put on the Cubs uniform. But this year he's having a great year. Michael Busch has come on over the last month, has put up more than just a respectable numbers. It looks like he's starting to find his groove after having a so-so rookie year. But I want to focus in on just a minute Shota Imanaga, LaKeena. He looked great in his first start a little bit over a month ago from injury against St. Louis. He struggled a little bit in his next 2 starts, but the last start before the All-Star break last Sunday at Yankee Stadium, he wasn't close to being as dominant as we expect him to be, but he came pretty damn close, and I think this All-Star break really helped him. I want to see how he fares against this Boston lineup tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's really going to be a big test here, and I know that he's been really working out a little bit during that break, so he was starting to kind of find his groove a little bit in his last start, so maybe he can kind of get it going here against a really solid Red Sox squad. So I'm wondering if they could be a nice little test for him to see if this is kind of like where he started to kind of get back to being the Shota that we saw early in the season before he got hurt. So that'll be an interesting part to kind of see what happens here. Now, as far as for the record, I cheer for both the Cubs and the White Sox. Let's get that. I want to make that clear for everybody. The White Sox, speaking of, they do face the Pirates in Pittsburgh. They don't have to face Paul Skeens, so they don't have to worry about that. Now,
Shane Smith is not going to pitch, though. Damn, Will Venable, what are you doing? I'll leave it.
It will be this weekend. It will be Jonathan Cannon versus Bailey Falter. That's nice. Well, actually, later today, the first pitch at 5:40 Chicago time. Tomorrow's matchup, we got Adrian Hauser, who's won his last 3 starts, and they could trade him out if they want to. He faces Mike Burrows tomorrow, and your rubber match in this series, you got Eris Avale and Andrew Heaney. So like I said, the White Sox, like I said, they haven't been terrible. I mean, we talked about with our good friend Jared Willis from CHGO. I mean, look, they only lost 65 games, I guess, considering where they were last year. They lost 72 about this time, and they were kind of the fun bad parts of the rebuild here for the White Sox. I mean, we'll see how the young guys fare in Pittsburgh and that ballpark, but it'll be interesting to see what can the White Sox do in this series against the Pirates.
Now, before we get started, I want to say shout out to the White Sox Twitter family, Section 108, the Chicago Sports Bums, those in the Sox Machine, good friend Johnson Nelson, friend of the program. I know all 3 of those fan groups are in Pittsburgh right now, attending games over the weekend. I know some of them made it there safely. Those of you that are traveling right now, have a safe and happy road trip and back to Chicago. But as far as this series is concerned, LaKeena, Adrian House, who starts tomorrow, as you mentioned, if you GM Chris Getz, first of all, you hope he doesn't get injured, and number 2, you hope he pitches well, and you hope that the All-Star break served him well, because if you're trying to trade him, if it's to Chicago up on the north side or somewhere else, you want that value to go up. And so that start by Hauser tomorrow night is very important in a lot of ways, not just for Hauser himself, but for the organization. If Chris Getz wants to get more for his bucket in a possible return at the trade deadline less than 2 weeks. Now, on the flip side, Miguel Vargas, who had a terrible start to the year in April, he had a hot May, but he's had a bad June and July, batting under 200. If he's going to be part of his future, he's going to have to pick it up with his bat. Is he a third baseman? Is he a first baseman? Those questions need to be answered starting tonight. I want to see Jace Mydrop get back on track as far as being a leadoff hitter. I like the way that he plays. I think he's a better second baseman because of his arm reach than a shortstop. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Also, too, Mike Togman. You mentioned about possible trade candidates. I think he's going to be out of here in less than 2 weeks. How much play time is he going to get? And if you GM Chris Getz, how much you're going to get for him at the deadline. But the most important player in all this is Luis Robert Jr. How motivated is he just to put up some good stats so Chris Getz get fair value from him in a return? We all know who the teams are that's trying to look for him, but I want to see how Luis Robert Jr. Starts out the gate starting tonight because a whole lot is riding on his health and his bat for this White Sox team to move forward.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there in that series up in Pittsburgh. Now, through some of the before we get to the schedule, some of the other so interesting stats from going to the second half here. Byron Buxton of the Twins. I mean, could he be perhaps maybe be on the move? He has 21 home runs, 17 stolen bases, has not been caught stealing. He's actually the first player in MLB history to have at least 20 home runs and 15 stolen bases without caught stealing, going into the break. Also, Julio Rodriguez, who also was one of those guys that left after that, for the home run derby. He has 17 total bases, 4 walks, and 2 steals over that weekend series with Detroit. So that'll be interesting to see if he can kind of keep it up there and such. Now, probably one of the most important stats, if I could find it real quick. That of course about Ohtani now. Nick Kurtz of the A's. He's had 16 home runs and driven in 38. Has 38 RBIs. He's the only other rookie to have that in AL history. I go all the way back to Mark McGwire back in 1987. Then you gotta go all the way back to like the Al Rosen and Rudy York. That's going to 1950, 1937. So you're going on the way back machine with some of those numbers now. With the exception of course, Kurtz, because he's a rookie with the A's, but could you see perhaps maybe a Byron Buxton or somebody like that on the move? Because Minnesota doesn't like to spend, so he might be a name that might tickle some teams' fancy. That because we got the trailer coming up in a couple of weeks, so this weekend, next week, part of next week is really gonna be the test to see like where these teams and what direction these teams are going, the contending teams.
Yeah, we talked about it before on the last couple of years at around this time of the trade deadline. Now with the wild card spot, having an extra wild card spot, 3 wild card spots in each league now. You have a whole lot of buyers, but not a whole lot of sellers. And regarding the Minnesota Twins, with Carlos Correa being out for the year, I know we'll get to the rest of the schedule as you mentioned coming up. But with the Twins playing the Colorado Rockies this weekend, you think they're going to get fat on them? That's PHAT for those of you scoring at home. But you assume that the Minnesota Twins are going to get fat on the Rockies to at least get off to a good start for the second half. Remember, they got on that hot streak at the end of May going into June, and they've been struggling playing around 500, solidly below 500 ever since. But Byron Buxton is going to be the key here. And you mentioned him being seriously injured a couple of years ago. The Twins used him as a DH until he got healthy. Now he's back on the field. He still can catch it out there in center field. He could definitely swing the bat. So if the Minnesota Twins struggle here to start the second half, he will be on the trading block. And I don't know if we're going to get to it today, but it looks like the Minnesota Twins, they still officially for sale because the Paul family wants to, they wanted to sell that team as soon as possible. So if the Twins failed to get off to a hot start to start the second half, I think Buxton may be in play. Now, you mentioned Oakland. I think the answer is no, but then again, you never know. Their closer, Mason Miller, one of the best young closers in the league. Could he be on the trading block? There's a bunch of teams that could use him right now, especially both New York teams, the Yankees, and the Mets. So could he be in place? So you're going to hear some of these veteran names, especially on these sub 500 teams for the next couple of weeks to see if they'll get moved.
Yeah, Jarren Duran, of course, they're from the Red Sox. The Cubs will see a lot of him this weekend. So we'll see if maybe he might be something that might be on the trading block. I know Mitch Keller, who's a pitcher for the Pirates. He's going to be interesting to see like if he perhaps maybe. I know he struggled this year. He might not get that much for him, but also Cedric Mullins. I know Baltimore fans are hoping that he's not on the trading block, but his first half WAR is 0.8. So you got to think that, you don't want to break that whole tandem up, but that might be a name. Somebody said that might, someone said that might be a name that might be on the move. Eugenio Suarez, we haven't talked about him very much, but yeah, that's another name for the Diamondbacks. That might be another name that might be, might come up a lot. So it'll be just
Zach Gallen too, and Josh Naylor.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Naylor. The Naylor one is very interesting too. So, Gallen, I know he struggled a bit this year. Talking about Zach Gallen, but could perhaps maybe he be on the move as well for the D-backs? I mean, it might look. Unfortunately, the Diamondbacks. I know a lot of people thought that maybe they could be up there with your Dodgers, your Padres, and your Giants, but they've struggled. I know, and he struggled too. He struggled too a lot this year, so he might not get that much for him, but. The Diamondbacks might be very busy in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and keep Zach Gallen's name in mind. If you're a Cubs fan, he could be someone. Could be someone that's a strong possibility for the Northsiders. And I still say these two names from the Texas Rangers: Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi, both starting pitchers. I know deGrom made the All-Star team this year. Nathan Eovaldi. He could be a sneaky, strong candidate for the Chicago Cubs. I know he's been there before as a member of the Red Sox. I believe he has a World Series. You can check that. Check that if you wish. But he's a young veteran pitcher that's been on the block before. He could definitely eat up innings, and he could definitely get guys out. I still say he's a sneaky good candidate, a trade candidate for the Chicago Cubs. Talk about Eovaldi. So watch out for those two names there.
Yeah, man.
Maybe some people say maybe Sonny Gray, but they might want too much for him. So, that might be a name to kind of keep in mind on the back end. So, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of names. You're gonna be getting a lot of names these next a week and a half. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. But yeah, you're gonna be hearing a lot of names. A lot of trade rumors. Get ready for those. Now going into this weekend's games, you got Boston and the Cubs. Of course, it starts at about 20 minutes, but you can watch the first game on MLB Network. Also, the White Sox in Pittsburgh. We talked about that as well. That'll be at 5:40. The Angels and the Phillies. And you got Washington as they host the Padres. The Padres got to go on the road, on the East Coast, to start off the second half. San Francisco and Toronto. That's going to be the first game on the MLB Network as well. Cincinnati versus the Mets. Kansas City and Miami, Alcantara, maybe, he starts tonight. We'll see if Alcantara might be on the move. And then you've got the Guardians hosting the Oakland Sacramento / whatever you want to call them. The A's.
Speaking of them Royals Marlins contest, you're talking about Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara. There's going to be a lot of scouts from a lot of contending teams, including the Cubs, are going to be at the game tonight. So they're going to have a lot of notes of sorts. So be on the lookout for that. Finish out the rest of the MLB schedule for this weekend. The Yankees and Braves, the rematch of the 1996 World Series. Others across the country, you can watch the first game of this series tonight on MLB Network. Baltimore at Tampa. Detroit at Texas. Minnesota at Colorado, as I mentioned earlier. St. Louis will travel to Arizona to face the Diamondbacks. Astros and LaKeena Seattle Mariners will do battle in the important AL West showdown. And the LA Dodgers will host the Milwaukee Brewers. And there's your schedule for MLB this weekend.
Your national TV match games here. You got MLB Network at 3:10 tomorrow. You got Cincinnati and the Mets, as well as the Royals and the Marlins. Of course, your Fox game of the week. Most of the nation, yes, here in Chicago as well. We'll get the Cubs hosting the Red Sox. You got Adam Amin, AJ Przinsky, and Adam Rayburn will have the call of this game here, and also the rest of the nation.
Yeah, the rain's going to stay away, looks like.
Yeah, thank goodness. So you'll be able to watch that matchup. Also, the rest of the nation will get St. Louis and Arizona. That's the other regional game at 6:15 tomorrow on Fox, the big Fox network. Houston and Seattle. That's the other game on MLB network for tomorrow night. On Sunday, you got your Roku game of the week at 11:05. You got Toronto hosting the Giants, finishing up their series. And your ESPN Sunday Night Baseball game of the week. We'll talk about that and the future of that coming up. But you got Detroit and Texas at 6:10 on ESPN on Sunday. And that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Hour number one's doors are closing. Hour number two will start following these messages. I found an interesting article that 5 Bears could face the pink slip and link card. We'll give you the drop those names coming up. Also, you'll surely have a list of top 10 defensive backs to watch out for in the National Football League for 2025. We'll also have LaKeena's British golf tournament update. We'll have sports media news, things to change it, and then some, and a whole lot more. As you stick and stay on the Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports, live in the living color, right here on Sports Soul Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Silverback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG is SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And you follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and goes again on IG.
As we kick off our number 2 discussing the Chicago Bears and in the NFL at large, if you have any questions or comments on those two subjects for this segment, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena, we get the up on the screen for you.
Going into our NFL talk as training camp. Well, actually, the Chargers are already started their camp. The other teams are going to start their camps coming up this weekend, and of course, the Bears will start theirs. The rookies start on early next week, and of course, next week for the veterans coming in. The next weekend. Now as far as some contracts were signed, We'll start with TJ Watt from the Steelers. He got a $123 million extension, including 108 of that is guaranteed, and he'll be averaging about 41 million, I should say, per year. That's tops. That's tops both Jamar Chase from the Bengals and as well as Myles Garrett. It'll be interesting to kind of see, like, okay, he's going to turn 31 in October, so a little bit of wear and tear there. So you got to wonder, like, there's some people there saying that, did they overpay? Of course, well, I didn't think he was going to go anywhere. I know there was a thing about he wasn't happy with his contract and such, but there's some that they might have overpaid. I talk about the Steelers did. I mean, they did pay DK Metcalf after they got him in a trade from Seattle. Did they overpay?
I think they slightly overpaid, but remember, TJ Watt is a top 2 defensive player in this league, along with Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. As we saw over the last couple of years, when Watt went out of the lineup with various injuries, that defense struggled for Pittsburgh. And once he's in there, obviously when he's healthy, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is one of the best units in the league. And he wreaks havoc with quarterbacks, and also too, he's very good at stopping the run as well. And he can defend a couple of passes here and there as well. So TJ Watt's value is very high. Obviously, I was just happy that he finally got rewarded with that. I'm sure, like you said, they did overpay for him a little bit, but with a player like that at the highest level, who's top 2, top 3 in the league, you have to pay a guy like that. So it was a great move by Steelers management. And even though Aaron Rodgers is there for at least 1 year for the quarterback, we all know that the Steelers right high on their defense, and TJ Watt, when healthy, is a part of that. So we'll see what happens with him going forward if he can stay healthy for this upcoming 2025 season.
That's going to be the key here. 2021 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He's led the league in sacks 3 of his 8 seasons. He led in forced fumbles twice, including this past season. So, yeah, I think you might have to open him a little bit to get him to stay, but we'll just see if this contract kind of holds up a little bit here. But, yeah, like you said, I think we'll get to our divisional previews, but that's really going to be kind of like the key here for the Steelers, is that can all those guys mesh together, especially with Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to be the number one, kind of like the main, $1 million question here. Now, another veteran, but this time this veteran who has already won 2 Super Bowls is going to the NFC East. Von Miller has signed a 1-year deal with the Commanders. Of course, he already has rings with both the Rams and the Broncos. So now he'll try to get for his 3rd ring over in the nation's capital, playing for the Commanders. It's a 1-year deal. I believe it's $8 million. The numbers weren't discussed, but he is going to get $8 million for that 1 year. Definitely adds depth to that really solid front 7. I think that was really kind of like if you can say that's probably the one like Achilles heel from last year for the Commanders. Of course, they made it all the way to the NFC title game before losing to NFC East rival Philadelphia. But yeah, I know some people are already saying that, they're going to regress, they're going to go do this, but they're going to do that. But, I think it's sort of like they got Debo from the trade for the 49ers. Then of course, you got Von Miller there as well, leading kind of like a young, defense. We call Marshawn Lattimore, of course, the secondary. So what do you think about this sign, and what do you think this says about what the Commanders are trying to do?
Well, on the outside looking in, as you mentioned, with those moves that the Commanders made all season, they are serious about putting together a championship caliber team. Of course, they came out of nowhere last year, beating Detroit in that divisional series after upsetting Tampa Bay in the wild card around the week before on the road. Of course, they lost to the NFC Championship game at Philadelphia last year. They're not resting on their morals. They're making moves to make it to that next step. Will it work out? We'll soon find out. But Von Miller, he just won't let us go. If it's a couple of teams that want to pay for his services, he's going to keep playing, and that's what he's on right now. He's, as you mentioned, he's looking for another championship ring before he calls it quits. He has a Hall of Fame type resume. So the Commanders making moves to get to the next level. As you mentioned, we'll get to our divisional preview shows coming up in August. But take a look at that NFC East. Dallas is the big unknown right now. The Giants, you think by happenstance they'll improve? How much we'll see. Philadelphia is the class of that division besides being the defending world champion. So the NFC East is going to be competitive once again this year. And so Washington, they're not resting on their morals. They're trying to they're making moves and saying to their fan base and to the rest of their roster in their locker room, hey, we're trying to take this thing to the next level. Jaden Daniels is going into his second year. We're going to put him and the rest of our players in the best position to win more games possible than we did a year ago. We want to be playing on that final Sunday of the regular season of the year in the Super Bowl. So if you're a Commanders fan, you're happy, like, yeah, let's plug in some veterans here and there that's going to make a difference and get over that hump to the next level.
It'll be very interesting to see what if they do regress. I think that's what people are kind of wondering: are they going to regress? Because of course, Jaden Daniels, there's going to be more tape on him and blah blah blah. So yeah, like I said, we'll go get deeper into it once we go on our divisional preview. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Now, the big thing here among the draft, we'll talk about the situation with Shamar Stewart in just a second here, but the second round picks, there were I think there may have like one or two that have signed. Of course, late Wednesday, I should say, Alfred Collins. He was kind of like the among some of the other big domino. Of course, he's a second rounder for the 49ers, defensive back as well. There have been a couple other guys that have the dominoes are kind of starting to fall and stuff. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, the Bears have signed some of their, all but one of their second round picks. They signed Traputo, Ozzie Traputo, and of course Shamar Turner. Now, Luther Burden III is the only one that has not signed yet among the Bears second rounders. A lot of the other second rounders have signed, but say, what do you think about this whole situation?
It's all about the language inside the contracts and about how long they'll get their money. Will it be extended? Will it be in a short window? Will it be in an extended window? So thank goodness we don't have those days like Curtis Enos here in Chicago. Remember years ago, LaKeena, that under the old CBA, rookies could hold out for just about whatever they want. And I'm glad those days have gone. So with these second round picks, it's just about getting their money, much of their money as they possibly can up front. And so you're not going to see any major holdouts here. So those guys are starting to getting taken care of and signed and ready to go. So it's all about, getting that business handled so you can be ready to go once training camp starts. So we all know veteran players. We talked about with the Commanders earlier. We forgot to mention Terry McLaurin. He may be threatened to hold out of the camp until he gets a new deal. So you see veterans pull that, but that's a whole nother story. But if you're a rookie, you got to get your business taken care of right away because you got to establish your credibility and establish your resume on the field as well. So for the rookies, just getting your business handled early so you can come into training camp with a fresh start because you're going to learn things off the field about being a pro. It's not just in their playbook. It's not just on that practice field, but in the locker room, in the film sessions, and what you do away from the facility. So all those things come into play when you start out as a pro.
Now, speaking of holdouts, of course, the McLaren thing, I know we didn't talk about it, but yeah, I think that he kind of put out there that he might not show up to training camp next week for the Commanders because he's unhappy with his contract situation. But like I said, we'll see if cooler heads will prevail there. I know that'll be just if it gets that far, but we'll see what happens there. Now, all the first round draft picks are signed except for one. Today, Barron, he agreed to his rookie contract with the Broncos. That leaves Shamar Stewart from the Bengals as the only remaining first rounder that has not signed. Craig Elko, who coached him for the last couple of years at Texas A&M, said that he is going to be there. He has been Stewart has been at the facilities, but his old college facilities, so he's working out there to kind of keep in shape, with former teammates this summer. So, I know some people said that maybe he might go back since he didn't have an agent, so he can go back to school if he wants. He has one more year left of eligibility. So,
I don't see why, unless something really catastrophic happens, I don't see him doing that at this point. you're right there. As I mentioned, it's just some of the language in some of these contracts and so. Unless something really strange happens, I don't see him going back to college. As you mentioned, it's smart for him not to have an agent, just in case something like that happens. But I don't see that happening. So he's going to be in camp as soon as possible.
And plus, he would have to go through like legal channels, and that could get a little bit messy. So yeah, so I don't see him. I know there have been some speculation that he would do that. I know his coach, like I said, Coach Elko said that he would not do that. So, but yeah, you kind of wonder, like, you don't want to. If you're the Bengals, it's bad enough you're still going to do this with Trey Hendrickson if he decides to hold out as they start camp next week. But you don't need one of your rookies to do that too. So. Yeah, hopefully cooler heads will prevail here. But I think for this reason, that was why they don't. That's why they prevented this, because of they structured a lot better. Maybe it's more like guaranteed money or years, or maybe it's more years and less guaranteed money. Who knows? But yeah, it's sort of weird how this has gotten to this far. But maybe something will happen that, like I said, cooler heads will prevail here.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Before we get to the top 10 defensive backs to watch for this upcoming season, courtesy of ESPN.com. I found this, bringing it back here to Chicago, LaKeena. I found this article very interesting this morning, courtesy of Miss Alyssa Barbieri. She talked about 5 Chicago Bears veterans who could see the cut list, as we call the pink slip and link card on this show. RIP to our great friend Lamont Scott for that. She has a list of 5 Bears players that could be on their way out the door sooner rather than later. First, we'll start off with left tackle Braxton Jones, of course. Challenging him for that spot is rookie Ozzy Trapillo, and of course, second-year pro Kieran Amagaji. Of course, remember Amagaji was thrown into the fire last year. He did okay, but as a rookie, but he was thrown into the fire right away. He had a lot to learn. Of course, Braxton Jones is entering the final year of his rookie contract. He's coming off of broken leg. LaKeena, we talked about the other signings of the offensive line via trades and free agent signings earlier this offseason with Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson. Of course, you have Darnell Wright, the draft pick from a couple years ago out of the University of Tennessee. That left tackle, the Bears better get right, because if they're going to surprise the people in the NFL this year, if you want Caleb Williams to have that jump upwards in his sophomore year, you better get that left tackle position nailed down fast.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the thing here. And I know Jones kind of struggled a little bit last year, but yeah, you hope that he doesn't get cut, because you're going to need that for depth if nothing else. So. But he didn't have a good year last year, so you wonder, and he's only 26, but yeah, you want to think that maybe a fresh start for him might be needed. So, again, we'll see if Trapillo can pass Braxton Jones. We won't get find that until they start camp next week, but that's going to be kind of like the number one thing here. So we'll see what he does under this new regime.
Next on the list, tight end Cole Kmet. We talked about this at nauseum during this offseason, LaKeena. After the draft, of course, a rookie tight end, Colston Loveland, says that his shoulder is fine. He's ready to go for training camp. The veterans report. Well, the rookies will report tomorrow, Saturday, and then the veterans, I believe, this coming Tuesday. So it's just a couple of days after that. We talked about Cole Kmet. In my opinion, he's been misused so far from the previous 2 coaching regimes. Of course, now his teammate, the rookie tight end Loveland. How's he going to be used in his new Ben Johnson offense? Will both of these guys be pass catching threats? Will Cole Kmet will be just a blocking tight end? A whole lot of questions, needs a whole lot of answers. But for right now, Cole Kmet, according to Alyssa Barbieri's article, he's on the chopping block.
I mean, we just go back to our previous episodes. I mean, we talked about it nauseam for the last since they drafted Loveland. So for me, it's just like, look, let's see how he fits in this new offensive scheme with Ben Johnson and Coach Declan. So the OC. At this point, I'm just like, well, let's see what he does, because you paid him all that money. You got to use him somehow. So yeah, let's just see what he does. That way we can stop asking the question. Well, is there a fit for him in this offense?
Yeah. Veteran number 3, defensive back Tyreek Stevenson, now entering his 3rd year at the University of Miami. He had a good, solid rookie year. He struggled last year. We know about the fiasco with the Hail Mary at the end of the Washington Commanders game last year. Matt Eberflus suspended him, didn't suspend him, didn't know how to handle that. in not just that situation, but the whole locker room. But that young man still has a whole lot of talent, LaKeena. I don't, unless he really does something stupid under Ben Johnson, which will be quote unquote very stupid. I expect Tyrese Stevenson to be on this team and to have a big year. And we talked about the secondary for the Bears and Jaquan Brisker's struggle to stay healthy via his concussions last year. But unless Tyrese Stevenson really does something stupid, he's going to be on this team. And you talk about depth within the offensive line. They need depth within their secondary as well. And Tyrese Stevenson, should he stay on the team, which I think he will, he's going to be a big part of where the Bears go this year.
Yeah, like you said, unless he does something really stupid, I don't see him going anywhere. I know that he took the brunt of what happened last year after that Commanders game. So, it's just like, okay, well, let's see what he does. I know, Coach Johnson wants to kind of like accountability. I think he's pushing that more. So again, we'll see what we'll see, but we'll see that kind of once you got teams that you also got this out. He's not going to put up with that crap either. So we'll see we'll see what he does under this new regime. I think there's going to be a theme here with a lot of these veterans.
Veteran number 4 on the list, courtesy of Lisa Barbieri's article in the USA Today Touchdown Wire. Quarterback Tyson Bagent, of course, they signed veteran backup Case Keenum in the offseason. He's been taking most of the snaps with the second team throughout the offseason workouts and the mini camps and whatnot. Tyson Bagent is entering his 3rd year. We know his dad's been vocal on X Twitter throughout various points last year. I know he got the shine from NBC a couple of years ago when Tyson Bagent started on Sunday Night Football against the LA Chargers. But looks like as of right now, Tyson Bagent is going to hold that second spot. But heaven forbid you had some injuries, LaKeena. You could see some other veterans being brought in here. But as of right now, I think Tyson Bagent for now is safe.
Well, of course, you've got Case Keenum. Of course, he's there. He signed a veteran minimum. He's there as at number 3. But yeah, I mean the Bagent. Don't tell our buddy Mark Carmen from CHGO. Don't tell him that because he's a big
friend of the show.
Fan, so. Yeah, he's a big Bagent fan. So yeah, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, so. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and his new system. Like you said, if Caleb, God forbid Caleb gets hurt, that's going to be kind of like the number one sort of like $1 million question here. So yeah, I mean, again, this is going to be interesting to see how he does under this new offense and such. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, if Tyson Bagent can, how fast can he pick up this new offense? If he can pick it up as fast as he can, I think his number 2 position will be solid. But if he doesn't, like you said, Case Keenum is there as a potential for his replacement. And the number 5 veteran, according to this article, is running back DeAndre Swift. If they really want to get rid of him, LaKeena, I think we talked about this too at certain nauseum here. DeAndre Swift, I know they drafted Kyle Manung guy from with a 7th round pick from University of Maryland. They really like him. He's been very impressive so far with these off-season workouts. We'll see. Bless you. And we'll see how he does it. We'll see how Manungai does in his first training camp. But DeAndre Swift, so I said last year, LaKeena, when the Bears used him right, which was during that 3-game winning streak when they went 4-2 before the bye week last year, DeAndre Swift is a very valuable part of offense. And of course, this has not been Johnson's first rodeo with DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift was with the Lions a few years ago, and he did very well before leaving for Philadelphia. But if DeAndre Swift stays healthy, I think he's going to surprise some people this year. Yes, we could throw Matt Eberflus under the bus for not using him right last year, and I'm certainly one of those people. But I think with Ben Johnson having him for a second go-around, I think that DeAndre Swift will have a big year. Now, outside of Kyle Manungai, there's not too many running backs that have in that running back room. So I'm really, call me crazy, but I'm really worried about that depth behind DeAndre Swift and Kyle Manungai in that running back room more than anything else.
Well, you got Roschon Johnson. He's still there, but I think the thing is that will he be around? Will they cut him after some part of the cut? So I think that's really going to be the thing here. And look, I know that Swift had his moments last year, but it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see what, like I said, Ben Johnson. They he coached under under him when he was the OC over at Detroit. So we'll see if maybe he could, maybe he can sort of like, open up his potential, like from what some of the previous coaching staff couldn't do. So that's another guy that probably we have to wait and see how he does, in this type of scheme that they run.
All right, and you can check out that article by Alyssa Barbieri on the USA Today Touchdown Wire website regarding the Chicago Bears. You can you also you're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. LaKeena here with you as we wrap up our football discussion. We still have a few minutes left, and I came across this list this morning, courtesy of ESPN.com, about the top 10 defensive backs that people should watch out for this upcoming 2025 season. We'll go through the names here quickly. Number 10 is Devon Witherspoon of the Seattle Seahawks. He has Pro Bowl appearances in back-to-back years, followed by Mr. Quinion Mitchell of the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champs, at number 9. He had a big year last year. Not too many people talked about him. I know the defensive line got the credit, especially in the Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs, but that Philadelphia secondary was very outstanding, led by Mr. Mitchell. Number 8, Jalen Johnson checks in from your Chicago Bears. Of course, we talked about him last year, LaKeena. He talked about his teammates being the Avengers in that Bears secondary. Even though they struggled last year via the injuries and whatnot, Jalen Johnson is still at the top of this game. Remember, he got fresh paper around this time last year, so he's still being respected from around the league as being one of the top defensive backs. Checking in at number 7, we have J.C. Horn from the Carolina Panthers. He had a very good year last year for Carolina. A few people may consider that Carolina Panthers team as one of the surprise teams in the league. If so, J.C. Horn is going to be right in the middle of their rebirth. And checking in at number 6 is Christian Gonzalez of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, Gonzalez was one of the few bright spots from that young Patriots team last year. And we'll see if Mike Vrabel, who is a defensive guy who actually played defensive end, we'll see if he can, put out that potential as well. Quinion Mitchell is one of those guys where we talked about him last year. He was one of those guys that didn't get a lot of pub on that defense for Philadelphia. So that's going to be interesting to see if he can keep it up there too. Of course, you got Vic Fangio over there. Be the DC over that Eagles squad. J.C. Horn, I mean, like I said, he was one of the few bright spots for the Panthers the last few years. And it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of, because remember, the Panthers, a lot of people say the Panthers could be one of those surprise teams this year. So that might be one of the things. He might be one of the reasons why, if he stays healthy. Johnson, the same thing. I mean, we'll see how he does with Dennis Allen and that defense, I should say. And he should be able to thrive in there. But again, he has to stay healthy.
As we talked about with the Bears all off season, we'll mention again when they start training camp next week. With the Dennis Allen, you mentioned as the new defensive coordinator, they played a lot of zone the last couple of years under Matt Eberflus. They're going to play. I'm talking about the Bears more man to man. So we'll see what Jalen Johnson's made of in that new scheme. Finishing out the top half of the list, the top 10 defensive backs according to ESPN.com to watch out for this year. Number 5, this guy just got paid last week. That's Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets. Checking it at number 4, Trent McDuffie of the Kansas City Chiefs. He got some love last year, but not too many people have paid attention to him unless you really follow football. Number 3, Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns. Number 2, Derek Stingley Jr. of the Houston Texans. He's definitely coming up as one of the best defensive backs in the entire league. And checking in at number 1 is Patrick Surtain Jr., I believe the defending defensive player of the year for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, Stingley Jr. of course also got paid from the Texans, so he got some fresh paper as well and deservedly so.
$20 million per year.
So I will say definitely deserving there. I know Surtain. I know he's up. I think Surtain also got a nice little paycheck boost as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see if a lot of those guys, especially, that's really gonna be the number one question for a lot of these guys. I think for a lot of those guys, they gotta stay healthy too. I mean, Surtain, Denver kind of came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of folks. I'm sure Sean Payne really wants to kind of show that, but even more potential too. I know they picked up a couple of defensive guys in the off season, so I think they really want to help out Surtain. So you got to think that they're going to perhaps want to make a big move as well. So Denzel Ward, like I said, one of the few bright spots from that Browns squad last year, especially after the whole thing with Myles Garrett, after all that and the contract dispute there, he kind of emerged there too. So we'll see. Could he perhaps maybe be, especially the Browns don't do well this year, I'm sure he's probably going to want to make a move as well. So, yeah, that's a pretty good list there of defensive backs.
You can check out that article via ESPN.com. All right, LaKeena, it's time to stretch. Take our 2-2 break. We have our sports potpourri segment coming up right here on Second City Sports. When we return, could Fox Sports be adding a new member to their big new kickoff for college football? And speaking of Fox Sports, FS1 is experiencing some changes. We'll talk about that coming up. LaKeena will give her latest update from the British golf tournament over there overseas. Will rain become a factor this weekend, as it usually does in previous years? And we'll have a whole lot more as you stick and stay on the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You're tuning into Sports Zone Chicago.
That studio is based in Chicago,
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey Maggette, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Lower the cost of gas.
Welcome back to Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Funk edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X again on IG.
Gillette Stadium for affectionate couples in the audience.
This is our last segment of the show for today and for the week in our sports potpourri segment. If you have any questions or comments for us of any of the topics that we discussed so far on today's show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. LaKeena, before we get to the sports media news in your British Golf Tournament update, a live update for those of you that's watching this live on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Bottom one at Wrigley Field. We said that Seiya Suzuki was going to look for him to get off to a hot start. Woo! If you're a Cubs fan, a 3-run shot off of Lucas Giolito. The men in blue lead the Red Sox 3-0 at the bottom of the first of the friendly confines. LaKeena, those are people that are rise from the dead. Obviously, we're not dead. We're not AI, but we said that Seiya Suzuki look for him to have a monster start to the second half. I guess our message traveled faster than a speeding bullet. He plants a 3-1 homer.
Remember we said an hour ago said that I guess Say is still a little bit miffed that he did not get an all-star invite. So he might be just a little bit miffed still about that. So he's still,
my bad.
If you say the Japanese, I mean, his native Japanese language, but that was a monster shot that they showed. I just saw the Cubs Twitter account. They just showed through their MLB Twitter account. They just showed a replay of that. It was a monster, and he really didn't hit it too far. Just the wind kind of carried it a little bit, but that was a really really nice shot from Seiya. They're like I said, they're 3-0 right now. It's good to see John Lester out there too, because remember he won World Series with both the Red Sox and the Cubs. Is see if he threw out the first pitch there, and also too, we want to send our best wishes to Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg. He posted he posted a statement earlier this week that it's kind of in a trying time. Of course, as you guys know, he's been fighting cancer the last year, and unfortunately, you thought he had beat him, but unfortunately, they discovered that it spread, and he's still fighting through it. That's why we had not seen him at Wrigley this year. I know he loves going coming to the games, but hopefully he can pull through here. You got this, Rhino, and it was good to see John Lester himself, a cancer survivor, wearing his jersey. That was actually really cool.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get some inspiration to Sandberg and all the people that are fighting cancer right now. Of course, we talked about what happened to Bobby Jinks a couple weeks ago this weekend. So, yeah, the Ryan Sandberg is RINE, folks.
Yeah,
Ryan Sandberg. Our best well wishes are with you from us here at Second City Sports in Sports Zone Chicago. So, our best wishes are with you and your family at this time.
All right, Sid. Your Open Championship update from a Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland. And for those of you who are wondering, at the top, of course, you got Massey Patrick, who actually has a major championship. He won the U.S. Open a few years ago. He's your leader right now. As he approaching the last hole at 18. And, of course, who's right there behind him? Mr. Scotty Scheffler, who's one shot back. Brian Harman, who actually won over at Royal Liverpool a couple years ago. He's right there as well, tied at 8 under as well. Also, a Hong Tong Lee from China. He's also right there as well. Among some of the other players, well-known players that are near the top here. If I can get my I got the scoreboard over here, but Harris English is 4 back at 5 under. 20 feet now. Keegan Bradley is also right there as well at 6 with 6 back. Rory McIlroy, remember he grew up not too far from this course. He's 3 back. He had a nice second round there, 69. Lee Westwood, of course, he always does well at the Open Championship. He's right there. Dustin Rose as well. And also Taylor Schauffele too, of course, a former Masters champion. He's in the U.S. Open champion. He's at he's 7 back. He's on the 15th hole. Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Thomas, John Rahm. He has a pretty challenging shot for 16. Or for Mr. Rahm there. Also, J.J. Spawn, also U.S. Open champion. Reigning U.S. Open champion is right there as well. So, but weather could be a factor because it's supposed to rain and wind. Of course, that's your typical links golf course there at the Open Championship. So that could be, a factor here as we get into the weekend.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how much weather is going to play a factor because, as I mentioned at the top of our show, the weather has played a major factor in years past. I remember Tiger Woods when he was still playing that course was tougher for him, especially with that not only with the rain but with the wind as well. It affected the swings and the ball, the way the ball carried as well, just like in baseball. So I know it's supposed to be showers throughout the whole tournament. So hopefully they could get that in. It looks like so far hasn't been any major issues, so hopefully they can finish that tournament in style. I wanted to add. My next question was going to ask you. I know Justin Rose, if I'm reading this right, he's at a -2 right now. I know Gutterup is at a minus. Gutterup is at a -5, so he's 4 back from the lead. Do you see any of those two making any major moves between now and Sunday morning here in the States?
Well, Gutterup is, for guys who know who he is, he actually plays a lot of his golf in Europe, so he knows the course very well. Also, another sleeper could be Robert McIntyre. Remember, he was right there at the Masters, so he finished in the top 10. So he might be a guy that might sneak in there and win. Look, you got. I know there's no Tiger and such, but yeah, you got Scheffler, you got Harmon, who's won before. You got Finau, who's right there. You got Keegan Bradley, who has PGA Championship. Jordan Spieth, I think, is not too far behind. I think he's like 1 under 2 somewhere, or even par. He became a dad for the 3rd time earlier this week. Tommy Fleetwood is right there as well. So there's a lot of guys, especially the weather too. I mean, if the weather is a good equalizer with links golf, so it's usually, I don't want to say it separates the men from the boys, but it separates from the guys that can do it with the guys that can't. Because remember, don't forget, JJ Spawn won the U.S. Open in pouring rain, so it's not like he can't do it either.
I was going to ask you about JJ Spawn. I saw Phil Mickelson on this list. I didn't think he was going to be in it this year, but it was going to be a miracle if he even makes it a Sunday. But I digress. But I was going to ask you about JJ Spawn, and I see him according to this list, he's at a -1 right now. Do you think he has a shot to at least make it into the top 10 on Sunday?
He might. Like I said, it's going to depend on how that course plays. Raining at Oakmont is totally different from raining at a links course like this. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fares in those conditions. But like I said, it's going to be a very interesting weekend at Royal Portrush.
Yep, you can watch the tournament right now on USA Network. It's also streamed on Peacock, and of course, the coverage will continue on Saturday and Sunday mornings on NBC, your local NBC affiliate.
All right, listen, I can see Sports on Sports. We got LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. We got a lot of sports media news to cover, Sid. So where do you want to start first? Yeah,
I want to start with college football. Of course, big noon kickoff. We'll have, I believe, Texas and Ohio State at the end of August. End of August. I know they come here to Chicago via Evanston. I believe a week or two after that with the Northwestern hosted Oregon. I can't wait for that. But we talked about how Big Noon Kickoff has been making strides over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, and Fox Sports has really dived into college sports in general. Following the NFL, they really dived into college basketball in particular, and college football they really have now, especially with them covering the Big Ten now extensively. With ESPN College Game Day on the league course, will have its final broadcast, and when they open up the season in late August. But Pat McAfee has really made some noise over there for College Game Day. It looks like Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, say what you want about him and his organization, his podcast. I enjoy some of their podcasts, but it looks like he's inking a deal with Fox Sports to go try to boost up their ratings to surpass ESPN joining Big Noon Kickoff.
Okay. I mean, look, I got my druthers about Mr. Portnoy, so like I said, I got nothing to say, so I'm just going to be professional and just keep it moving.
We'll see what happens with his addition. And now, speaking of FS1, as we dive into that, of course, we talked about this on our last show on Monday. 3 shows got the boot with Speak, Breakfast Ball, and the facility. Danny Parker's a friend of the show here, and also native of Chicago. He's going to do a new show. What that new show is going to entail, who's going to be on there, we don't know yet, but it's going to be formed in time, just in time for the NFL season. But I heard some different commentaries on both stations. I heard it here on YouTube that that with ESPN now having the Rich Eisen show debuting in the fall on ESPN Plus. Of course, they have Pat McAfee with his YouTube show. At least the first 2 hours are also broadcast on ESPN between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. local time here in Chicago. It looks like the FS1 could grab some folks from the Barstool sports community to help save programming at FS1 during the daytime. I know some people, there's opinions on both sides of this, but if you're FS1, you really do not have too many options left because after they got rid of Skip and Shannon, it's been downhill for FS1 ever since. As far as embrace debate, I know First Things First is doing very well. They're on for 2 hours now. Of course, you have Colin Cowherd with his radio show being simulcast on TV, but after that, they have nothing else during the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're a Fox, you gotta try something. So I guess this is sort of a way to kind of like get the buzz of that and such, But yeah, I mean, it is what it is with them. And we'll see what Danny does with what they're gonna do for his new midday show, because he was already coming into a show. This is really a show that he's kind of helped create. I mean, he already was coming into a show that was already kind of like made for him. So we'll see. I mean, and I think he wasn't a problem over there. I just think that a lot of the stuff just isn't good quality. So I think, look, it'll be to see what kind of show that he does and what kind of the Barstool folks, whatever they decide to do. But I don't usually tune into a lot of that stuff on either network. So for me, it's just like whatever. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Fox does. I know they're gonna try to do something. I guess they gotta do something because some of their other stuff has not been very good. So we'll see what they do here.
Yep, and also too, I know that I think you guys follow each other on the X Machine, but check out Marcellus Wiley's YouTube channel. He really breaks it down what's been happening over at FS1. For those of you that haven't seen it or heard it yet, I know his stuff is also available via all podcast platforms. But if you're right here on YouTube, just type in Marcellus Wiley. He really gives a good and simple breakdown of what's been happening over at FS1 over the last couple years or so. So go check him out when you can on his commentary, what's been going on at FS1. Of course, he had a show over there on FS1 with Jason Whitlock. It was doing very well, and then he got the boot on Samoria's reasons. So we won't get into that here, but he really gives a good breakdown what's been happening over there over the last year plus.
Yeah, he still has a lot of folks that still work there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that he has some things to say. And like I said, he was there, so. Yeah, he's got a lot of things to say. Like I said, I'll leave this other stuff alone. But yeah, he's a really great follower on social media. I know he follows me, which I can't imagine why I'm not that interesting. But
nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I don't know, but I'm getting a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of top folks following. Like I said, I'm not that interesting, so whatever. But check out you can check out his YouTube channel and such. You can watch on YouTube and also listen to it on various wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm putting it out there in the universe. Hopefully he'll come on our show at some point because he's a very, very interesting man.
Very smart. Like I say, he went to Columbia, so yeah, he was all Ivy League. So yeah, very smart guy as well. Like I said, our buddy Danny. We'll see what kind of stuff he does, stuff that they do for his new show. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here now. Peacock has jacked up prices. $3. Just in time for the NFL season, perhaps also for the NBA season coming up. So I guess they're covering those expenses too. I mean,
let's not forget the Winter Olympics come up in February,
and the 100-year anniversary of the network too. So coming up as well. So
yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah. So I think I guess there are reasons why this is happening, but yeah. Kind of interesting how they So now it's going to be one of the most expensive streaming services on around.
I'm like Tyrese. What more do you want from me?
Oh, brother.
You already have Amazon. You have Netflix. You have some of these other streaming services like Fubo and Hulu, Disney Plus / ESPN Plus. I know ESPN is supposed to debut their direct-to-consumer service in the fall, just in time for the NFL season. Now with Peacock, business-wise, as you said, I understand it because with the NBA returning, of course, don't forget the NBA schedule, I think, comes out at the beginning of next month. But the NBA will be exclusively on Peacock on Monday nights. I think they'll be on Tuesday nights in the fall and winter, and of course they'll be on Sunday nights following the NFL, especially this year following the Super Bowl because of the Super Bowl in the Winter Olympics, and also to the NBA All-Star Game, wherever you is worth, is back on free TV. So there's a lot of things going on in NBC Sports right now.
We'll see how it pays dividends for them. So we'll be interested to see what happens here now. A couple of departures to talk about real quick, Sid. Michelle Steele, of course, a veteran reporter and anchor for ESPN. After 14 years, she was based here in Chicago. She did a lot of NFL. She covered the Bears for a little bit. Here does the other NFL and other sports as well. She announced on her social media yesterday that she is departing the network after 14 years. She, like I said, she has covered the first day, as I was the Aaron Hernandez and all that transpired there. Then she did a lot of Monday Night Football. She did a lot of college hoops. Did a spelling bee for a little bit. So she did a little bit of everything at that network. She definitely will be missed there.
Yeah, she was one of the best to ever to cover breaking news, as you mentioned. Besides the NFL and the Bears, in-depth stories and in-depth questioning. And that's what you like to see from journalists, and not just anchors, but journalists who really go deep inside the story, ask questions that other people are not asking, and really tell those stories from the subject's perspective. And that's exactly what she did. And like you said, ESPN is going to miss her a lot. And wherever her next adventure is, I'm sure it's going to be great wherever she touches as well.
Veteran NFL GM Scott Pioli has announced his departure from the NFL Network. And look, they usually do this every year. They always do like a couple, they get rid of a couple of folks and they bring in a couple other guys as well. So not too surprising that he's leaving, but just a little interesting departure of note.
Yeah, especially with the NFL Network, with their major cuts they've been having for the last few years. Yes, Scott Hansen is back. For those of you that have been left in the dark, no pun intended, he'll be back as the host for the NFL Red Sox for this upcoming year. We'll see him in September. But with the NFL Network, with their cost-cutting moves that we've seen from that network for the last few years, they're going with younger analysts and hosts. I know Rich Eisen is still there, but they're going with younger analysts for the players that just retire, and so they want to try to grab that young audience as much as possible. So it's not just a cost-cutting move, but it's a strategic move as well to get younger analysts. I know Manti Te'o is still there, and a couple other guys that names escape me. For Gerald McCoy, has actually been doing a good job. With NFL Game Day. He's been rising up the ranks over the last couple of years or so. I still think they should have kept Michael Irvin, but other circumstances that kept them from staying on that network. We won't get into it here, but they're moving into a younger direction, and cost cutting is the name of the game, especially in this industry.
Yeah, now one guy that's still sticking with NFL and doing the Red Zone is Scott Hansen. He actually did an interview saying that he was actually very upfront that he was on the podcast, that side media podcast with Jimmy Traina, who was hilarious yesterday. He said that he had some difficulties in negotiations with NFL media. So it was touch and go for a little bit with that. Of course, he had the NBC stuff with the goal zone and stuff like that. But yeah, he signed a multi-year deal in May. I'm sure he got a nice little bump in salary as well. So yeah, he was actually very upfront about it. So you guys can check it out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, SI Media Podcast with Jimmy Traina.
I'll definitely check that out this weekend. But as we talked about, LaKeena, when that story first broke during the early part of the offseason, as we said before, we'll say it again: know your worth, and he definitely knew his worth, and so he got what he deserved.
And totally deserving of it as well. There were a couple other sports media news that I wanted to get into. Now, you got any as I try to look for these.
Oh yes, in baseball, the Detroit Tigers, as we talked about early in the season, they cut some of their pre and post game shows to save costs of their FanDuel Sports Network. Their telecast has been the MLB's biggest RSN viewership increase in 2025 thus far. Of course, you have Jason Benetti, Chicago's very own, in his second year as the TV voice of the Detroit Tigers. You have Johnny Kane, That's the pre and post game host over there. You have Miss Danielle Bruce, who's the Tigers field reporter. She is doing an amazing job. So, and the Tigers have the best record in the American League. So, numbers and viewership makes sense. It's making sense. So, right, the Tigers had the biggest increase within their regional sports network so far this year.
Well, you just said it too. So the team is doing well, so that helps. I mean, that's going to be kind of like the thing here, for folks, So yeah, we'll just see what happens here. But yeah, Jason Benetti, he does a great job. Of course, we saw it here in Chicago with the White Sox. So I'm still miffed about that White Sox let him go, but it is what it is. But like he's thriving over there in Detroit, and he's been really solid. That broadcast is really good. I try to listen to it whenever I can. And of course, like I said, the Tigers are doing well. They have the best record in the American League, so that helps too.
Yeah. Bringing it back to Chicago real quick. I'm talking about Chicago TV as far as baseball. Of course, the White Sox saw, I don't know the official numbers, but I know the White Sox saw a slight bump in their ratings ever since that. It's been almost 2 months now since they've been on Xfinity, Comcast. Of course, yours truly is still watching the games now. Thank goodness it's there on Xfinity, Comcast. I don't have to go through other avenues outside of MLB.TV to watch my games via the replay. But I'm very curious to see what the ratings are for your Cubs with Marquee. I know they have a streaming service too, but just like everyone else, you had to be subscribed to a cable or satellite provider to get that game streamed, which I think is stupid. But that's just me. This is bigger than the Cubs, but that's just stupid in my opinion. But with the Cubs, as we said before, coming into today's action, as we start the second half of the season, they have a 1-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers, and the actual broadcast for the Cubs, I think it's still pretty good whenever I get a chance to check it. But I'm interested to see what the ratings are for the Cubs to show over at Marquee, because it's been lingering the last couple of years as the Cubs fell short of the playoffs. But this year, they exceeded some people's expectations, and looks like they make some right moves here between now the trade deadline. They will win this NL Central division, but I'm just curious to see what the ratings are for Marquee.
2023 in January. Well, because like I said, I don't have Marquee, unfortunately, so that kind of part of that's a little bit wary here. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure whenever I can watch it, we know. John Sciambi, Boog, and JD Jinder Shades do a great job. So I'm sure, especially since the team's doing well again, I'm sure it's right up there near the top. So, I'm sure it's right there. Plus, also, look, if you can't watch, you can listen to it on The Score with with Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer. That they got a good telecast as well. So it's if you can't watch, you can listen to at least what's still not fixed over The Score.
Yeah, Hall of Famer Pat Hughes, definitely a class act of a person and as a broadcaster as well. Going back to the NFL, Drew Brees, who worked with NBC Sports, remember a few years ago, looks like he may get a second chance to be hired as a game analyst for the NFL's Christmas Day games on Netflix.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. Like I said, I think he needed some seasoning, and as according to he might call one of those games. Also, may do one of those international games. He's been doing it the last couple of years, so maybe he'll get another a shot at it after not a good showing over at NBC Sports. Unfortunately, even he admits that. So yeah, he said he wants to make a return. So we'll see. He'll be in there over at Netflix. He'll get a shot doing one of those Christmas games. Because remember, there are a couple of networks. ABC, maybe. I think what was it? Fox. Oh, Fox. It was Fox that they don't want their people to do it. So yeah. And also I think ABC and ESPN too. So yeah, it's gonna be you're gonna get guys from NBC or CBS. So you might have to get Drew Brees to come in. So yeah, that's kind of why this is happening. But I'll give another shot. I think he just needs some seasoning, and look, hopefully he gets another shot at it.
Yeah, I know Tom Brady wasn't interested either. Even if it was, Fox said no, you're not doing it. So, and like you said, that's why these moves are happening. A couple other headlines from the sports media world I want to get to. Going back to baseball, NBC, Apple, and ESPN, let's get married again. ? They're in the bid for the Sunday night baseball package. Per the commissioner of MLB, Rob Manfred. I think we talked about this before, LaKeena. I think NBC, in my opinion, is the best position because they can own Sunday nights for 52 weeks of the year. As we mentioned, they'll have the NBA coming up in the winter and spring months, especially after the Super Bowl this year and after the Winter Olympics. You'll have the end of the regular season and some of the playoffs. Of course, they own the number one TV show and during the fall and winter months with Sunday Night Football. In the summertime, nothing else is really happening outside of the WNBA, even though the presence of Caitlin Clark has their ratings boosted up just a little bit. But you'll own Sunday nights throughout the year if NBC gets this Sunday night package. I'm really cheering for that to happen.
Well, it says that ESPN is not. They chose not to pay the $550 million for those last 3 years. That's why they opted out. But then they realized that, oh, they're actually still getting good ratings this year. So I think they're probably thinking, okay, maybe we may have they may do a little reunion here. But I think it was like I said, Apple. Like I said, Formula One, they're going to Apple. I mean, okay, fine, but good luck, Formula One. You're going to be back into obscurity as like ESPN has made y'all relevant for the last 4 or 5 years. Sorry to go on a little tangent there, but a little bit miffed about that. But yeah, I think I think Manfred knows, especially with the looming lockout coming up after next season, you're gonna need to perhaps get your money's worth too. So I would think NBC might be a good spot, but again, will they have enough room? Yes, they got the money, but will they have room for it? ESPN, you're like, look, you know where you're going with that, so that'll be the thing here. But it's gonna be just to see like, will it be money or will it be the quality of programming?
Yeah, as we talked about before, they gave a little history lesson here. Before MLB Network debuted here in America in 2010, ESPN was the go-to network for Major League Baseball as far as cable-wise. You still have Fox, which you still do now. But ESPN used to broadcast at least 3 or 4 times a week, including Sunday Night Baseball. And, of course, throughout the years, their game coverage has waned, is now down to 1 game a week. And you would think that ESPN will throw a little bit something in the pot if they get back with MLB, but I'm not sure. That's why I say NBC makes the most sense. I think NBC, you still have Fox Saturday Baseball, so they're not going to touch that. And maybe you can sneak in a game, a weekday game, weeknight game during the summer months of your NBC, if that's what the deal allows. But NBC will own Sunday nights throughout the calendar year if they get this baseball package. As you mentioned, Apple is in there as well. They already have Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV Plus. They don't need any more.
Exactly. So we'll be interested to see what happens with this one. Another, so going back to NFL, college football, I should say, Hulu has announced a new docu-series, according to Ryan Glassbeagle from Front Office Sports. A new docu-series featuring Bill Belichick and the North Carolina football team will be released on Hulu sometime before the season starts. After the HBO Hard Knocks and the Tar Heels, all that broke down. Apparently, it's not happening at HBO, but apparently it's now happening at Hulu. So, interesting. We'll see. But I'm not saying anything.
You're not interested in a soap opera between Bill Belichick and his 25-year-old girlfriend. How much control does he really have? I'm talking about Belly-cheat, as we call him on this show. How much control does he really have over this content? Focusing on my players. Focusing on Mike Lombardi, the quote-unquote GM. Focusing on those players. How much coverage that the girlfriend is going to get? How much will she be involved? Hello.
Like I said, I'm not saying anything. I'm gonna go as late Robin Williams said on his one of his shows, Morgan Mindy, nanu. I ain't saying nothing, but I'm just leaving that alone.
We'll do that show coming up soon on Old School TV Monday, by the way. Good call. Another headline here as we wrap up the show here on Second City Sports on SportsTalk Chicago. Sid LaKeena here on our Sports Potpourri segment. If this is not potpourri, I don't know what is. Going to the NBA, I should say. According to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, NBA needs to figure out local rights before expansion. I think they have a meeting coming up, I believe, next week or the week after regarding the expansion. I think we talked about it before, about the NBA really wants Las Vegas as I think they have 30 teams now. I think they can work with 32, obviously. I think it's all for certain that Vegas is going to get an NBA team. I think the other team should be Seattle. I think that's obvious here. You move, and it's been talked about for years. Move Minnesota and Memphis over to the Eastern Conference. Both of them play in the Central Time Zone. I don't, for the life of me, I didn't understand why both those teams are in the Central Time Zone, but you have them playing in the Western Conference. It made no sense to me. But if you get Las Vegas and Seattle in there as your next two expansion teams, move Minnesota and Memphis to the East. It shouldn't be that damn difficult. That's just me.
Well, remember back in the late 70s, the Bulls were in the Western Conference, so
yeah.
So, it wouldn't be that impressive. It's not that unprecedented, but yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens here. I know I saw an article yesterday that said that one of the reasons why they want to go to Vegas because they go legalize gambling. So, that's probably another reason why they want to do this. But yeah, I think they want to, especially with the new TV deals about to start this coming season. I mean, okay, that'd be interesting to see what they do here. But yeah, that's going to be kind of. I know Seattle folks have been clamoring for a new NBA team for years, especially since that team that moved from Seattle is now, they've now won the championship OKC. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see what they do here. Now, speaking of the NBA, Damian Lillard, just celebrated a birthday. He's going back to Portland with a 2-year, $42 million deal, which, remember, he's going to be out for most of next season because of the torn Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a no trade clause, a player option for 27 through 28 season. I mean, okay. Thoughts?
I think he wants to end his career with the Portland Trail Blazers. I thought our guy Kyle Means in our text chain yesterday I brought up a good point. I'll paraphrase it. He let outsiders quote unquote bully him. I'm talking about Damian Lillard. He had outside influences, quote unquote, bully him to go, oh, you're not going to win in Portland. You need to go somewhere you can win a championship. And as we said at the beginning, him and Giannis looked great on paper. They just quite couldn't get it going because of injuries. You had a coaching change, and so things didn't work there. But it seems like to me that it was partially Damian's call to go back to Portland. As you mentioned, he's going to miss all of next season, but it looks like he wants to finish his career in Portland now. We talked about Portland being sneaky good last year, LaKeena, and coming in with the few games of qualifying for the play-in tournament. But do you think this move will hurt their progress or help their progress? Now with Chauncey Billups going into his third year next year as the head coach.
There's going to be a lot of pressure on the pass, but at least try to make the play-in. So that'll be, that's going to really going to be defined like where direction they decide to go. Because if they're not very good next year, I'm talking about Portland. Yeah, I would be surprised if Damian Lillard decides if what he himself is able to come back. That I want to go someplace where I can get a ring. So, and I know you'll be able to do that in Portland. So we'll see.
All right, we got a couple minutes left before you have to shut it down. LaKeena, did you check out the ESPYs at all? I saw a couple of clips online, and I saw Busta Rhymes. I think he did one of his songs that he had out several years ago. I know he's an older man now, but he didn't sound that great to me. I saw that, but outside of that, and I know that Russell Westbrook presented the award of the Arthur Ashe Courage Award to Oscar Robertson. Finally, Oscar Robertson, but got some respect that he deserved outside of the NBA community. But outside of that, I didn't really check out the ESPYs. Maybe it's just me. I just wasn't that interested this year. And
Shane.
It's been like that for the last 2 or 3 years for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Gillis, unless you actually get his humor, you're not going to get it. That's when I saw you as host. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, it's I think I heard our buddy Marshall Harris on Rahimi and Harris on the score, both friends of the show, both him and later Rahimi. If the ESPYs were to go away, then I wouldn't hate it either, honestly. if we're being honest here, because it really doesn't like the the fundraising aspect of it. I get, of course, for the V Foundation for Cancer Research and such, but the rest of the awards itself, I'm just like, whatever. Simone Biles won 2 awards, one for a female athlete and also for championship performance. The Eagles won best team. SGA won best male athlete. Renoa Mayer, who of course was the breakout star from the Olympics, of course led the women's rugby team to their first ever medal, the bronze. She won breakthrough athletes. But yeah, other than that, it was just like, okay. Suni Lee won for comeback athlete of the year. good for her, deserving. But yeah, it was just like, okay, whatever. Like, take it. It's one of, for me, it's one of those award shows I could just take it or leave it. Honestly,
I know in the beginning, at least for the first 10, 15 years, LaKeena, when they started it, I was excited every year because it was something new, and they actually had the hosts. The hosts were on point, but Serena Williams, I believe that was last year or 2 years ago. She never hosted anything before. I know that she tried, but it didn't go over well. I'm not a big fan of this guy's music, maybe 1 or 2 songs, but Drake I thought was okay a decade ago. I know Peyton Manning I thought was very good. But outside of that, in my opinion, it hasn't been good for the last decade.
Yeah, they let that year Lance Armstrong hosted before all that stuff about allegedly that came out about him. I thought he was really good. I think a couple years right before Peyton did it. So yeah, other than that, in the early days when it was in New York City, I think that was when it was at its best. When it moved to LA, it kind of lost a little bit of its whatever it was that kind of made it good. So yeah, like we both said. I mean, if it were to go away, I don't think people. I know they need to fill in time, in between the All-Star breaks and such. But it's a quote unquote dead time of year in sports. But
yeah,
I wouldn't lose sleep if it went away. Honestly,
I agree. Anything else before we close out for the weekend?
Yeah, just that if you're into the WNBA, they got their All-Star weekend festivities coming up in a couple of weeks. I know Kayla Carter unfortunately will not be there, sadly, because
there goes the ratings.
The growing injury. And so she already said that she's not gonna be a part of the All-Star festivities coming up in a couple. I think it's next weekend. That in Indianapolis. So sorry.
Yeah. It's really a bummer too because I know the Fever is trying to make the playoffs and she's been in and out of the lineup and it's really been tough. And the Chicago Sky, they really continue to embarrass themselves. I know they got voted on as the worst run organization in sports. That's true. Can you check out the Chicago Bulls? They're saying right now, hold by beer.
Well, to her credit, though, Angel Reese has been playing very slow. I know she won Player of the Month and Player of the Week honors for the month of June. So she's been one of the few bright spots for the. I know Camila Cardoso has been away playing for her native Brazil and that team. I think they won whatever competition she was on. So, but yeah, it was been like okay, not losing sleep over that. But yeah. I know the Rays haven't been, have been okay, but not great. As I just saw Scotty Scheffler just take the lead in the Open Championship. He's now at 10 under right now, but a little minor update there. But yeah, just like whatever. I'm just like, okay, can we just happen?
Yeah. All right, take us home.
All right, you can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, again on IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. Excuse me, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Warbeer Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Warbeer a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, if you miss our segments, any service for our show, no problem. You can go back to us, the replay on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel. Again, we can catch replays of our show, the Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's great content, the replays right here on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, now the Bulls are back in action of Summer League. If you care, they face Utah tonight down over in Vegas. Again, if you care. Also too,
about me.
Exactly. So catch all the MLB. That's back. Back in full swing. With the NFL teams starting to trickle in the training camp, I suppose, starting this weekend, the rookies are coming in and such. So, if you're into, like I said, summer league, all that's right there for you. Enjoy the weekend of sports as you get ready for the football season. For Sid, I'm LaKeena of Second City Sports on SportsTalk Chicago, and we'll see you guys Monday.
Go Sox! Holla!